This video is brought to you by Mubi. Get a whole month free at mubi.com/lofi cinema. When I was a kid, I always solved maze puzzles by starting from the end. I would start at the finish and trace the path backward. Somehow it felt easier to get it right that way. We often approach adulthood in a similar way. We picture the person we want to become, then try to find the path that leads there. I'm going to be a filmmaker. I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to be a novelist. I'm going to be a game developer. At first, that image helps. It gives the desire a shape. It tells us what to practice, what to study, what to take seriously. But over time, the picture can become too literal. You start to want the exact version of that life you once imagined. And slowly, anything that does not resemble it starts to feel like a detour. The work you are doing now feels temporary. The place you are in feels temporary. Even the person you are feels temporary.
I'm so embarrassed. I'm not a real person yet.
This is Frances in Noah Baumbach's Frances Ha. Frances is a dancer in New York. Well, almost. At least, that's what her dream is.
So do you do it professionally?
Yes. Well, I'm an apprentice, but it is a professional dance company.
She is close enough to her dream to call herself a dancer, but her connection to that world is very fragile. She seems to be on the right path, but since she hasn't achieved the end of the puzzle yet, everything around her feels temporary. Her future in the dance company is uncertain, her apartment is temporary, money is always a problem, and she seems to romanticize this life, because in her head, she is still this aspiring dancer, living with her friend, dreaming of the big life ahead.
All right, Frances. We are going to take over the world.
You'll be this awesomely bitchy publishing mogul.
And you'll be this famous modern dancer, and I'll publish a really expensive book about you.
But when her friend decides to move in with her boyfriend, suddenly the realization of adulthood and real life hits.
Do I look old to you?
No. Yes. How old?
Older than I am. Older than 27.
No. 27 is old, though.
When you are younger, the unfinished parts of your life can feel almost romantic. You are still becoming something. You are still on the way. But after a while, the same feeling starts asking a different question. What if this is not a phase? What if the life I imagined is not arriving the way I thought it would?
I mean, you don't want to be an apprentice for the rest of your life.
Nope.
You want to take over Nancy's position.
Nancy, who works in the office?
She's pregnant.
Why would I do that?
It's just a good day job while you figure out whether you want to choreograph or what.
Oh, no. I don't. I'm still gonna be a dancer, just not here.
Now, this is where it gets very interesting. When we reject what seems like a detour, the not exact version of how we pictured our life, are we being ambitious or stubborn? Frances is being offered a different career in dance, but it's not the version of dancer she still has in her head. The word dancer has carried a very specific picture for her. If she doesn't have that, she doesn't want anything else.
I'm still gonna be a dancer, just not here.
And this is a tricky turning point that every artist faces at some point. We have this traditional picture in our mind, this official-looking version of our dream. A filmmaker on a set, a writer with a publisher, a singer signed to a label. When I turned 30, I would get this existential frustration. All my life, I wanted to be a filmmaker. I knew the exact way I should get to that end goal, and somehow it kept not happening. It wasn't until a few years later that I realized that the world is not a maze puzzle. It doesn't have only one solution and one correct shape your dream has to take. I may still become the filmmaker I imagined, but I started to see that everything outside that image did not have to feel temporary. For Frances, taking the desk job initially looks like a step away from dance, but it eventually gives her the chance to choreograph and stage a small performance of her own. She may not have become the dancer she imagined, but she has built a real life within the world she cares about. The job does not simply take her away from her dream, it becomes another path toward a version of it she had never considered. And a great example of someone who didn't treat the work he was already doing as temporary is Kogonada. Before making feature films, he became known for video essays about cinema. But those essays were not separate from the work. They were already a way of thinking through film. When I watched Columbus, his debut feature, I felt something very similar to what I had felt watching his video essays years back. He did not treat his video essays as a placeholder before the real work began. They were already where he was developing his artistic way of seeing cinema. Columbus is currently streaming on Mubi. Mubi is a global streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema, with every film handpicked by a curator rather than an algorithm. It's a place to find films that are harder to find elsewhere, and a great way to expand your taste in cinema. You can try Mubi free for 30 days at mubi.com/lofi cinema. That's mubi.com/lofi cinema for a whole month of great cinema for free.